Hi, everyone. My name is Gabi. I'm a master NLP practitioner, an EFT coach, a mindset shifting coach, and a law of assumption coach here at Create Your Future. And I am so excited as we dive deep into the law of assumption to figure out how to make it work for you. Today, Amanda is here with me. Hi, Amanda.
Hey guys, I'm so happy to be here and do this video with Gabi. Really exciting. It's a video on using AI to manifest. I think that's the biggest hype right now. I've been using it a lot and having a lot of fun with it. And yeah, I'm also, for all you guys new here, I'm a NLP practitioner, EFT practitioner, a hypnotherapist, as well as a certified life coach. So yeah, a lot of us here are actually certified. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this video. Gabi was the first one on our channel to dive into this, and I thought, oh my goodness, we need to do a video on it.
Yeah, it's so great. And I've had so many clients that have reached out to ask about using AI to support them on their manifestation journey. And this is just a great segue into that, because I think that there's some great pieces of information that we can share with our subscribers. But at the same time, like, there's probably some cautions and some guardrails that we want to share as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, it's a little bit of a success story. Okay, so I was basically waiting for a blood test, right? And you know, routine blood test, nothing like serious. So as Canada, we give those out like like crazy. you go because you don't pay for it here. Anyway, so I'm waiting for a blood test. And you know what? I noticed, like, I'm like impatient whenever I'm waiting for something. And then, you know, so I was playing around with the chat GPT and I was like, you know, why am I impatient? And it gave me like a few ideas, right? You know, and then I was like, well, you know what? I'm like, this isn't really giving me what I want, you know? And then I thought to myself, like, because AI is only as good as what you put into it. So then I was like, you know what? It's funny. The other day, me and Andrea went to a restaurant and we were on a wait list. Like, we had to put our name on the wait list. So when I walked in, I said to the lady, hey, you know, my name's Amanda. And then, you know, she said, okay, I'll put you on the wait list. But I didn't see her write it down. I saw her walk away. And then I went straight to the bathroom. So I was like, did she put my name on the wait list? So I noticed I'm acting all weird. I'm trying to look at the wait list, right? And so finally I can't take it anymore. I ask another lady, am I next? You know, because like, I need to know if I'm going to be waiting forever, you know? And then she was like, oh, your name? I'm like, Amanda. She's like, oh yeah, you're here. And I was like, okay, thank God, you know? And then all of a sudden, as I'm like putting all these things in the chat GPT, I was like, oh my God, I'm scared of being forgotten. I'm like, I'm worried when I go for appointments or if I'm like on a wait list, I'm scared I'm going to be forgotten and overlooked. And I don't, you know, and I was like, oh my God. So then I was like, no, you know what? I'm always remembered, you know, I'm always prioritized, you know, and that sort of thing. So what I would suggest when you use your AI, because it's only as good as what you put into it. So I put, like, for another situation, I put in my circumstances. And then, you know, I said, what's my story or my self-concept to be creating that in my life? And it basically came back with like 5 different things. And like, now be cautioned that those 5 things, they may not be your story, or one of them may be your story. You'll see what resonates with you, because AI isn't really good at critical thinking and the human side of things. But I mean, it's going to give you some starting points, especially if you're like, you know, when I was new at this, I had a hard time pointing out my blocks and my stories, you know, and this will give you a really good starting point.
Yeah, I think that's really important. You know, I've told my clients when we've introduced AI and discussed using AI as a tool to remember that you really need to keep a human in the feedback loop with AI, that it doesn't have the critical thinking skills that we do. It's really great at pulling a bunch of data and information from across different, systems like YouTube, the internet, Reddit, et cetera, right? And it's able to kind of regurgitate back that information, which is probably why it didn't give you your correct story, because it's just pulling a bunch of stuff. But that's also really important to know, is that it's a tool to help, but it's not necessarily a tool to replace, seeking out support and guidance in an individualized plan. Now, I will say, it's been really great if you are spiraling. For instance, I have a client who, and I shared this in my video, she really can't get away from her desk during the day. She works in an office. She does kind of an important job, and she sits in front of a computer all day. And one of her things was that she was struggling with flipping her mental diet. So what we did was we programmed into AI, she was using ChatGPT. We gave it the new version of her and what that new version would be thinking, what it would be feeling, what it would be, doing in their life. And then what she would do is she would say, I'm thinking this thought. please rewrite it to the new version of me. So it would help her flip her thought in the moment, which was really helpful. But we did all the preloaded front work first to get that into the engineered prompt. The other thing is I've used it myself to say, hey, this is what I want my desired reality to look like. Write me a scripted story that outlines my desired reality and shows me having it. And so then what it does is then it actually shot back to me a scene where, and Amanda, you're going to be familiar with this, my SP was talking to his friends about how great I am and how much he loves me.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool. And it did help me in the time when I was actually not in contact with my SP. So it helped me think through, oh, well, that's cool. Like, it's kind of cool to have this like little image in my head of him talking to his friends about me and how much he loves me.
Exactly. You know, it is true. So with the chat GPT, like, it's really good at helping you flip your thoughts coming up. So like, I was like playing around with it and I was like, oh, what's an elevator pitch for my business? And it asked me a bunch of questions. And then those answers to those 5 questions, it basically just put into a paragraph, right? And I was like, but it was a really good sounding paragraph. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. I'm like, you know, and so it's really good at compiling that, you know, and this is what I'm thinking now. What's a positive affirmation for it? Like, it's really good for that, but it doesn't replace the critical thinking. You know, it's like, and I think the caution I really want to caution is if it gives you so my formula is put in your circumstances and then say, what is the story I'm holding about my, or my self-concept about myself? Like, what is it, the story I'm holding, or what is it about my self-concept that's creating this? And it'll shoot back like about maybe 4 or 5, things like, oh, you don't feel important enough. You feel like an imposter, and then you look at those, but don't say, oh, those are all mine. Like, don't claim them. Okay. This chat thing doesn't know what your whole entire story is. It doesn't ask you any additional questions to probe, to dig, to find out what your thoughts are. Right. So, but if something resonates with you, it does, right? If it doesn't, it doesn't, like my situation, it was like, it didn't say you feel like you're forgotten. And that's something that I've carried throughout my life, right? But it didn't actually give me that as a choice. But using the chat like the chat got me onto that, and it, because I was like, oh, what is my block, right? Like, I feel like I'm forgotten. What is my block? I don't know. I just feel like I've always forgotten. And I was like, wait a minute. I feel like I've forgotten. Like, I was saying it in my head, So
yeah. And I think that that's really important to highlight too, because I know that I did have a client that did also try to use ChatGPT to identify her blocks, and it got her surface level blocks, but it didn't really get the core belief. And that is something that we as coaches can do for you. We can help you identify, yes, what's happening on the surface right now, what's the current block right now in your current 3D reality, but it's always related to a core belief. And the core belief is what we have to change. The block is just the story that you're saying, oh yeah, that's true. But the core belief is what's supporting that block. So
exactly. And like it's as smart as what you put in there. You know what I mean? So if I was to nail my block and say, look, and my block is that I feel like I'm forgotten, what stories am I holding? It would have given me a lot of great feedback. So, and sometimes we don't know what our blocks are. We're complicated beings. I remember when I did coaching, I have people that come and be like, look, I don't know what my block is, and I remember one client, oh, she was so darling. And she said she wanted her SP to basically propose to her and say that to say that he loved her. And he called her one day and said all of this, right? And it was great. Like, I love you. I want to marry you one day, blah, 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 blah. And then, and I'm sure this is common. I'm sure a lot of people are gonna be like, this has happened. And then the next day he says, well, no, I didn't mean it, and I said, she goes, I don't know how I manifested that. I don't know what my block is. And I was like, well, after you got off the phone, like, what did you think? She's like, oh, the minute I hung up, I was like, he's drunk and he didn't mean it. Okay. So our past experience about him being drunk and not meaning things, basically undid all of that, so, with those little nuances, that we have, we're human. Every single thought that we have creates. I know a lot of people out there say, well, I don't know. I didn't have a thought to create that. It's like, really? You remember every single thought you've had since birth? Because basically your reality is a sum total of every single thought that you've had. Every single thought you've had. It's all right there. It's all shaped. Okay, a parent left you. You say, oh, everyone abandons me. Boom. That's been rippling out your whole entire life, and it's like, so then that turns into your self-concept because you view yourself as someone that has people abandon you, right? So, it really, your thoughts create and, digging in to find out. And that's what Gabi does. She finds out what thoughts you're holding and which ones you need to change because, it's so easy. If I would have said to Gabi, I don't understand. I always feel like I'm forgotten. She was like, that's your block. And I would have been like, oh,
Well, and that's definitely it, right? Like ChatGPT does not have the background and experience that coaches have, so, thinking through and Amanda, you shared this at the very beginning of the video. There are a ton of us on this channel that are certified in various different types of coaching, various different methodologies and theoretical and practical applications of coaching. And ChatGPT doesn't bring that to the table. Now, that doesn't mean you can't include in your prompt engineering, like, hey, reframe this, or hey, I'd like to use a switch technique to do this and use some of the NLP practices. But ChatGPT is not trained in NLP, right? It's not trained. I say they because I'm not really sure what to call it.
They, well, could you imagine if ChatGPT gave out their pronouns, right? That
would be funny. I would be like, do you have a name? And that would be a little scary.
Yes. Why not? They can have pronouns too.
Of course. But yes, it's not trained, nor does it have the experience. And as you mentioned, we are such complicated beings. We are living a 3D human condition existence. And with that comes all of these different social mores and core beliefs and beliefs that have been passed down, that have been reinforced. And you can't put all of that into a prompt into ChatGPT and have it just fix it for you right away. It's a great Band-Aid tool to help you in the moment when you're trying to flip your thoughts, when you need maybe some support with a technique such as scripting, or maybe you're looking for some somewhat individualized affirmations. But again, those affirmations aren't going to work if you're not using it on the correct story. So, it's really important to keep in mind. It's a great tool for in the moment to kind of help you regulate yourself, help you kind of get back on track, but not necessarily a great tool for putting together a full plan. So.
Exactly. Lots of great things there. So thank you so much. I love that. This is great. I've enjoyed it. I'm going to still continue to play with it. I think it's got lots of great side applications, like doing an elevator pitch. There was a few things I threw in there. I was just doing everything. I'm going to try recipes next, or how to cook. I think for technical information like that, it's really great. So, I also put in there ones too. It's like, I was like, what do I do about the haters? And, and ChatGPT was so nice. He was like, don't focus on them. Don't focus on who supports you. And I was like, yeah, Chad, yeah,
Hey, everyone is you pushed out, right? Because what you put your awareness on is what shows up more in your reality. Exactly. So there you go.
My ChatGPT is going to be named Chad.
That's perfect. That's what I call mine. So there we go. Everyone you
Get out of here. Love it.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. This has been so great. And I just think that all of our subscribers are going to be so interested in this. And I really wanted to also share, I do have a mini 5-day challenge coming out on how to use AI to help support you with your manifestation process. So it'll just be some little tidbits, tips and tricks that you can use to help you with your techniques and help you to stop spiraling. But yeah, thanks so much, Amanda. It was so great.
I love it. Thank you. I had a lot of fun. And guys, I intend you guys all had a lot of fun as well. If you use ChatGPT for anything or any AI, comment below. I use it and it helps, and yeah, we'll see you in the next video.
Yeah. Bye.